Hi friends, it's Sydney with Log Cabin Village, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about watercolor and do a little painting together if you want. So you'll need some watercolor paints, also a brush, a paper napkin, some water, and some watercolor paper, or just any thicker paper will do. And any watercolor paints will do. You don't have to have anything fancy. So back before photography was developed, people relied on drawings or paintings to provide accurate depiction of things that they saw around them or observed. Watercolors were ideal for this because they were portable and they dried quickly, and a person could use them to capture the fleeting effects of light or weather or a bird's wing, and anything in the world around them, but also paint detailed studies in things that they found or saw. So today we're going to paint a simple shape, an egg shape, just because I want to give you just some hints and some ideas about watercolor. And I just want you to get started painting with it because it's such a fun medium. This egg is a little more detailed than we're going to paint. We're just going to use one or two colors, and I'm going to use this wooden egg as an example. And you can see it doesn't have much of a color because I kind of want you to pick your own colors. If you went for a walk though, you might find a broken bird's egg or even a whole one on the ground, and I've seen that before. Sometimes they're spotted and kind of brownish. If you've ever seen a robin's egg though, it's kind of a turquoisey blue, and that's what I'm going to use today. So any blue is good though. It doesn't have to match mine exactly. Remember, we're just getting an idea about watercolors and having fun. Now I'm not going to pencil or sketch the shape, because if you were out in the field using watercolors and you had to paint something quickly, a bird or something that was just there temporarily, you wouldn't bother with a pencil. You'd just be sketching with your paint. So that's what we're going to do today. Not that an egg's going anywhere, but that's what we're using. Okay, so get my brush wet, good and juicy. Tap out a little bit of the water, and then pick up some of my paint here. And again, it doesn't matter what kind of paints you're using. You might have Crayola pan paints or whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's look at the shape of the egg first. An egg is really kind of a circle with a upside down U on top. That's what I'm going to call it. So that's what we're going to think of when we're painting it here. And I'm just going to draw that bottom part of the circle, which is going to look kind of like a C. And of course, this is much bigger than a robin's egg really is, isn't it? But that way you can see it, and it's really more fun to paint something bigger. Okay, so there's my C shape. Now I'm going to press down a little more on my brush and get a little more of that paint in there. Make my edges a little more rounded. And then I'm going to rinse my brush, tap out the extra paint, and go along those edges and kind of soften that up. I don't want the edges to be defined or dry as a hard line. So I'm going to do that one more time here. And you notice each time I do that, it's getting lighter and lighter out here. It's because watercolor is transparent, and the value is controlled by the amount of water that you add to the paint. So now I'm going to draw that upside down U shape here, and but first I want to determine what direction the light is coming from so I can preserve the shadows and the reflection on on the egg. So I can see that the light is coming from this direction. You can see the shadows over here. So I'm going to leave a little white space just here on my egg. So I have this circle and then an upside down U, and it's about half the circle high. So if it's 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, that's how high we want to make it. I don't know if I explained that correctly, but that's how high I'm going to make it. And then I'm just going to paint an arc that direction and then an arc the other direction. Okay? Okay, and again, I'm going to rinse my brush, come back over there with that wet brush, and still preserving my white space here. Now, the reason we want to do that is because there really aren't any, you don't use white with watercolor. Watercolor is transparent, a transparent medium, so the white on the paper is really your white. So the heavier your paint, the less reflection off of the paper. So the darker the color appears, and the thinner your paint with water, the more water you use, the more reflection, because the light reflects through the transparent watercolor. So we're not going to use white, we're going to use the white on our paper as that light. All right, so let's go back over here in the corner with our turquoise, our dark. We're going to darken that up. Remember I said watercolor dries really quickly, so really you got to move pretty quickly with watercolors. It's one of the challenges of it. But one of the great things about watercolor is it's so surprising. There's really very little you can control about the effects of it. And often you just kind of have to roll with what it gives you, which I kind of like about this medium. Okay, I'm going to go up here, define these lines a little more. Again, wetting my brush, dabbing it, going back and softening that line so it doesn't dry hard. Still preserving my white space there. I'll go through here. Okay, one more time I'm going to go down there on the side of the egg that would have the shadow. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of a darker blue with my other blue. You could even use a little bit of brown or gray. Most of the time in watercolor you make your own grays and blacks and browns just by mixing odd colors together. I'm just using a little bit darker blue, and you see I'm just dropping it in there. I'm just getting the paint. I didn't blot it or anything, and I'm just dropping that paint straight in there, just touching my brush to the paper. Because I just want this side to be darker. And you can see already this is giving the egg or the painting a little more dimension, kind of lifting it off the paper so that it looks a little more 2D anyway, two-dimensional, or not quite as flat on the paper. And that's the fun part about the painting too. Maybe not making it so realistic looking, but certainly making something look solid rather than just flat on a piece of paper. So I'm still preserving my white. I'm going over there, softening those lines. Soften that. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush really good, tap it out, and go back over there on that white, because if you rinse your brush and dry it off really good, you can go back over watercolor that's still wet and lift it off of the paper a little bit. So that's a technique that's handy to know. Okay, I kind of covered my white up a little more than I wanted to, but so I'm going to lift that off a little. All right, well that's about it, guys. You can let it dry. Another thing about watercolor is once it's dry, you can still layer another layer of paints on it and, achieve a little more depth to it. You can add details. Once it's dry, you can go back and add spots. We can add a little shadow here. We can do that right now. I'm just going to pick up, I have a little bit of brown here. Pick up that little bit of brown and add this blue, and it'll make a gray color. And I'm going to make it really transparent because this is just a shadow. I'm going to go down here and just draw it across there. Yeah. Just a light shadow. Just so it doesn't look like it's floating on the paper. But if you're painting a nature journal, really you're just depicting things that you have observed in nature. So guys, go take a hike. Take a hike out in your backyard or down the street or in a park and pick up things that interest you and things you might want to paint. And bring it home. Paint the shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Practice is what you want, and really just to enjoy the medium. Watercolor is a super fun way to relax and to express yourself. So have fun doing it. Appreciate you watching today, and you guys take care, and I'll see you next time.